Hello, everyone, and welcome to Feature Fridays. My name is Garrett Trott. I'm part of the support team here at Uplifter, and joining me, as always, is the one and only Jackie Kwan. How you doing today, Jackie?
Good. It's always just you and I.
It is always just you and I. We don't even need to introduce ourselves anymore. Hey, it's us.
Hey.
Well, thank you everyone for joining us today and joining us whenever you're reviewing this video thereafter. Today we are going to be going through DNS settings. Now this is one of the more technical things that you can do with Uplifter, so we want to make sure that you guys have the resources available to you to make sure that you're updating these items correctly and without issue. And of course, our team is here to help you with any questions or concerns that may arise as you proceed with this. But today, Jackie is going to walk us through updating DNS and connecting an owned domain to your Uplifter system so that when people go to your nice, lovely domain that you've purchased, they actually see your nice, lovely Uplifter site.
Hi.
Hi. It's us again. Hi.
So this is, I feel like I just realized as you introduced me, I'm like, oh my God, this is so boring.
What do you mean?
Well, it's just so technical. So
Yeah.
one of the reasons why I actually wanted to go over this today is we've got a lot of clubs going live right now and launching their sites with Uplifter, and not only that, I'm also wanting to give clubs that are already on Uplifter, or even clubs if you're not on Uplifter and you've got a website, just a few tidbits of information to help you guys keep your domain and keep them safe, because there's some basic information that a lot of individuals don't know about having a website and how to control that website. And I just want to give you a few pointers on that side, but then also show you how you can actually use Uplifter to power your website, as it were. So Uplifter, if you're on our Gold or Enterprise plans, you have the availability of using not only all of our website content management tools, but as well pointing a customized domain to your Uplifter site so that we basically run your website for you on the Uplifter platform. So this isn't very common with a lot of club management software out there. So not all the software platforms will do this. So this is somewhat unique to Uplifter, and it gives you an edge up as a club goes. So here you can see I've got our Townsville School of Music site, and as Garrett noticed just before we came online, was it actually uses our new capybara theme, which is that we launched just a couple of weeks ago. So if you're looking for different ways to sort of style your site, you can certainly check out the new capybara theme. So when I signed up with Uplifter, I signed up with my subdomain of demo music. When you actually sign up for your Uplifter site, you're able to select or choose your own subdomain as long as it isn't already taken. And that becomes your Uplifter site. And that's how you'll always get to your Uplifter site. But if you actually own your own domain or your own website name, you can then point that website name to your Uplifter site so that Uplifter is basically running your website. So before we get started, I'm going to actually walk you through just a few details, just some basics about domain names and how they work and how all these pieces work, because not everybody knows, and some of this information is important. This will help you make the changes that you need and understand what all the roles are for all the technical teams that would be involved to get your website up on the internet. So there are basically three parts to having your website. So let's start with the first part of your web pages or your web host. So in order to actually run your website, your website will be run off of some web pages. It's typically a platform of some sort. It would be something like WordPress or possibly something like Square. As I mentioned, Uplifter also has web page tools, so it might be on Uplifter that is hosting your web pages. So that's where the actual content of your site exists, and it's on a server somewhere in the internet. So it's just like it has a bunch of files on a big computer, and it displays all of that for the internet to see. Now that server will have what's called an IP address, and that IP address will be a series of numbers separated by periods. Before we move forward, Garrett, I'm just going to warn you, my headset is dying. So we might have to pause here.
Typical.
So you might just have to take over. But
okay, no problem.
So that web server will have what's called an IP address that basically tells the internet this is where you would find this these web pages. It's at this address called 172.111.11.11, and it's literally like just it's an address with a bunch of numbers that tells the internet where that server is. So of course, nobody actually types into their web browser, go to my website at 172.111.11.11. Instead, what they
So
do
easy.
is, anybody can remember it. So instead, what we do is we register what's called a domain name. And a domain name is basically a custom name that you would register with what's called a domain registrar on the internet. There's many registrars on the internet, such as GoDaddy, rebel.com, register.com, Namecheap. There's tons of them. And it's very inexpensive to actually set up a domain registration. Typically, it costs anywhere from about $10 to $30 or $40 a year. And what that does is it reserves that name on the internet for you. And you need to remember to register this every year and renew it every year. We've run into situations where clubs will register their domain and then they'll forget to actually renew it. They'll forget to put the credit card in and leave it there to auto-renew. And when it comes time to renew, they forget to click the renew button, and then all of a sudden their website's gone because they forgot to ensure that they pay that reservation fee once a year to make sure that they've reserved that name for them. So, so make sure that you know where your domains are and make sure that you're setting them to auto-renew. And then the last piece that sort of glues these two things together is what's called a DNS record. And what that does is it's basically a bunch of literally like internet phone books. And what they do is they store a whole bunch of information that basically maps and remembers that your domain name, myclubwebsite.com, is actually equal to where this server is. And what these records are called they're called DNS records, and they may be in the form of what's called an A record or a CNAME. An A record is literally this IP address, or a CNAME is a web alias. So it would be very similar to saying, myclub.uplifter.com. So those are the different types of DNS records. What we'll end up doing is just ask you to make changes to your DNS records to basically point your domain to the web pages that are being hosted on Uplifter. And it's very easy to do. I'll walk you through how to do that. Before I do that, though, I did want to actually walk through very quickly the importance of owning your domain name. If you actually have a customized domain and you've registered it, I urge you, if you're a club, make sure you know where it's registered. Make sure that, if you know it's on GoDaddy or whatnot, make sure you have access to that. Also make sure that the email addresses that are attached to the ownership of that domain is an email address that's going to be standard for your club for as long as your club's going to be around. If we've run into other situations where the club is run by a bunch of volunteers and a volunteer board member has put in their own personal email address as the as the owner for the domain, and then they leave the club. And then when it comes time to renew the domain, the club can no longer renew the domain because that email address is attached to somebody who's no longer available and not able to help the club. So make sure that you use a club email address and make sure you are registered with a place that you know. Now, I do also know that a lot of IT companies and platforms will also register domains on behalf of customers. Be wary of that. It's fine if they do that, but make sure that you still have access to that domain and that you are the owner of that domain, so that if you need to make any changes.
And your headset died. Bye, Jackie. Okay, so now the pressure's on me. Okay. So yes, as Jackie was noting, your email associated with your DNS account is very important so that you can actually log in. If you need to make changes of this nature or really of any nature, you need to first have access to that. Now, Jackie, I think I heard you
Did
in
you
the
hear me?
back. I did, yeah. Oh, okay. You do sound a little muffled, but I think you said.
I'm sorry about that. So, anyways, I apologize. So, I hope that all makes sense. As Garrett was carrying on for me, as I mentioned, make sure that you have control of your domain name and you know where it is. Just because we've seen clubs lose their domains because they don't have that information. So make sure you have all of that accessible to you. So
That's basically rough, sort of high level of the things that you need. So the things that Uplifter does is Uplifter can be your web host and host your web pages for you. Uplifter does not do domain registration, and we don't host DNS records for you for your domain. You need to do that with typically your domain registration provider will provide both these services together for you. And then all you have to do is just sort of hook those two services onto Uplifter. So let's walk you through how to do that. So very quickly, so there's basically two steps. And if you're actually going to use Uplifter for your main website, there's a third step, and it's very easy to do. So number one, before you even get started, if you want to point your domain to Uplifter, and again, this is available to our Gold and Enterprise tier customers, contact us at support@upliftering.com and schedule a time. In order for us to make these changes for you, we have to do just a couple of little things in the background. Doesn't take us long, but it's also something that requires certain people on our tech team to be available to do for you. So before you even decide to use Uplifter as your website, give us a heads up, send us an email saying, we'd like to point our website over to Uplifter. We're probably going to do that, in the next couple of days. We're hoping to be able to do that on Wednesday at 10. And then we can make sure that we have the right people scheduled and available to make those changes for you at that time and to answer any questions you might have as you're going through the process in case you're not sure what to do. So the first thing, once we've scheduled that time and we've figured out when that's going to be, you're going to need to get access to your DNS records and to be able to make changes to that. And the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to want to make what's called a CNAME record. So once we've scheduled that time and you let us know, at that time, you'll log into your registration system or sorry, your DNS server system, and you're going to create what's called a CNAME for your site. Now, if you're using Uplifter as your main website, you're going to create a CNAME for www, and you're going to point that CNAME to the Uplifter club site that you've created. So in this case here, we've got demo-music at uplifter.com. Whatever your website is on Uplifter, you're just going to point that CNAME from www over to your Uplifter site. If you're only using Uplifter as your registration site, you can pick a different sort of subdomain. You can call it register, you can call it members, registration, whatever it is that you want attached to your custom domain. So in this case, we would create register.myclubsite.com, and that would point to that same Uplifter club site. Now you'll notice here, and I'll show you in the screenshots as I'm going to demonstrate in a couple of interfaces how to do this, that there's no HTTP or HTTPS in front of this. This is just simply your Uplifter domain, subdomain that you've selected. If you are going to be using Uplifter for your main website, for your www, there is this third step, which is you're going to need to create what's called a 301 redirect within your domain registrar or your DNS servers. Not all domain registrars offer this service. Most of them do. There's a handful that don't. So you might want to research this before you actually complete this to make sure that it can be done. And the reason why you do this is your domain actually exists both at, most people know to go to a website by typing www in the front, but your domain is actually without www. And what we want to do is make sure that all the traffic, regardless of whether they have a www or not in front of it when your members come to your site, that they go to the www site so that we can actually serve up what's called an SSL cert to make sure that all of the traffic on your website is secure to your domain. So what you're going to do is you're going to create a 301 redirect that points your main domain to, now we're going to add the https://www dot whatever your custom domain name is. And what that will do is if anybody types in your domain site, your domain name without putting www in front, it's automatically going to force them to go to www and show them your Uplifter site that we've pointed up here. So let's take a look at how to do that. And it's actually, me showing you how to do it is actually way faster than all that explanation that I went through just now. And Garrett, are you still awake?
Oh, yeah.
Stay with me. So, So a couple of really common domain registrars and DNS hosts out there: GoDaddy, Namecheap. You know, I named a couple. I'm going to do GoDaddy, and I'm going to show you as well Rebel.com, which has a little bit of a different setup. I just wanted to show that one to you because it's a little bit different than how GoDaddy does it, and I just thought it'd be a good demonstration. So wherever it is that your domain registrar is that hosts your DNS, log into that site. So if you're using GoDaddy, log into GoDaddy, and under GoDaddy, you can go to My Products. And I have here, I'm actually going to connect to my swim club website here. So I actually have uplifterswimclub.com. So under products, find your domain name. You might have multiple. Typically, you'll likely only have one. And find the ability to basically change your DNS. So there's a link for DNS. Now, one other thing that I will mention is that if for any reason you are not comfortable doing this and you need a little bit of extra help, you've logged in and you can't quite figure it out, a lot of domain registrars will also give you the ability to basically grant delegate access to another person to make these changes on your behalf. So if you are on GoDaddy, let us know. If you're not comfortable with this, you can actually grant us delegate access. I can show you that a little bit later if we have enough time. And it basically tells GoDaddy that you're going to let somebody at Uplifter make these changes on your behalf on your account. And that way you're not emailing us passwords. We don't want passwords. You need to keep this, this account secure. So back to DNS records. What we're going to do is we're going to go back and we're going to create this CNAME record pointing www to your Uplifter club name. So my Uplifter club site is demo swimming. So I'm just going to copy this and I'm going to go back here. So here you can see, oh, I've actually already done this here. So typically, what you would probably see here is www would probably look more like this, an A record with an IP address that's pointing to your old website. But what we've done here instead is we've created what's called a CNAME. So if I edit this, you'll see that in this first box, you're going to type www. And then with the CNAME, you're going to point this to demo-swimming.uplifterinc.com or whatever it is your Uplifter site is. As I mentioned, don't forget, no HTTP in the front, just the plain domain. So, so whatever it is that you're using to access your Uplifter site. And then you'll just click save. And that's your CNAME. That's all you have to do. Once you've done that, let us know once that's connected. And what we will do in the background is we will then install your SSL cert, knowing that that's connected, and then you'll be able to move forward. Now let's do what's called the 301 redirect. On the same page, if you scroll down, there's a section here called forwarding. And typically you would just say add. I've already done this. Let me just show you what this looks like. When you add it, you can forward it. Now we typically recommend to actually forward it to HTTPS because we are going to be generating that SSL cert for you. And what you're going to do is you're going to point this back up to your www. So whatever your site's going to be, whatever your domain name is, you want to put in www.yourdomain.com. So in this case, it's www.uplifterswimclub.com. You want to make sure that this is a permanent 301 redirect, and you want to make sure that it's a forward only, and then you'll click save. So I'm just going to click save on that so you can see what it looks like once we're all done. So you can see here that this is what the forwarding section on your GoDaddy site should look like. So again, you should see up here your CNAME. This should just say www. One common mistake that we often see is some people that put in the whole www.demo-swimming.uplifterinc.com. No, this should just say www, and this should just say your Uplifter domain name, and then the forwarding down below. So that's pretty straightforward. So now if I go to Uplifter Swim Club, uplifterswimclub.com, I will now get to my demo swimming site. So let's do the same change for our demo music site, but on rebel.com. Now, rebel.com is a little bit different in that you have to do it actually backwards. You actually have to create the redirect before you actually create the CNAME. And of course, it logged me out.
I was gonna say, of course, I forgot my login. Didn't we just talk about that?
Where is it? And I just logged in just before this. They have a very short time frame, which is great. It's good for security. So once you've logged, so rebel.com, the reason why they're a little bit different is that they actually require you to do what's called the 301 redirect first, because they're going to change a whole bunch of settings, and then you actually go and create your CNAME afterwards. So you'll go and find your domain. I believe this is, I can just click on this. Let's see here. So once you've clicked on your domain, and in this case, I've actually registered upliftermusicschool.ca, you're going to click on DNS. From DNS, and they actually do it in order, which is kind of nice. So the first element it says is the name server information. So what you're going to do here, typically, if you just purchased your domain, it would look like that. If your domain is pointed somewhere else, it might have the forward domain. What you want is in this top section, you want to set it to forward domain. And here, just like at that bottom section of GoDaddy below, you're going to forward this to HTTP or HTTPS, www.upliftermusicschool.ca. So it's basically this with the www in front of it. So make sure that that's all there like that. And you just save your changes. So once that has been created, it just takes a second. Now, I do want to say Rebel, each DNS server host, sometimes their changes take a little bit longer to update. Sometimes it might take 4, 6, 8 hours. Oftentimes, if everything's set properly, we can get it done in about an hour. But just keep in mind that sometimes it does take a little bit longer. So in order to complete the changes of Rebel, after you've actually added this forward domain, you're going to scroll down and go to Advanced DNS Manager. And what they've done when they actually set this up is when they actually do the 301 redirect, they make a whole bunch of changes here that sort of automatically forward all of your information over to their servers to be able to forward the domain. Once that's done, what you will do is we have our A record here. We're just going to leave that alone. So you don't want to change any, we have this A record here. We're going to leave this one alone. And that's your main one without the www. What we want to replace is the www one. Now in Rebel, you actually can't edit an A record to a CNAME. So in this case, and this might be slightly terrifying, but don't worry, you're going to delete your www record.
Oh, not that one.
Ah! Did you really? Oh.
Gotta spice it up.
That was spicy. So here I'm creating my CNAME record. Wait a minute. Are you drinking? No, I'm drinking. We're going to create our CNAME record. I clicked Add Record. I'm creating a CNAME record. At the beginning, we're going to type www like we did on our GoDaddy site, and we're going to point this to demo-music.uplifter.com. So whatever it is that your Uplifter site is, you're going to point that to there. Again, notice no HTTP or HTTPS in front of here, just the Uplifter short name, and you're going to click Save. So that should be it. Now I am all ready to go. Now what I will do is, if you contact us after you've already made these changes and you didn't schedule this in advance, what's going to happen is I'm going to go to my Uplifter Music School, .ca, and if I go here, I'm going to get this because you didn't tell us in advance and we haven't yet had a chance to set up our servers and get ready to install the SSL cert. So make sure, and very typically what you will see is actually an expiry page. You'll say, oh, this domain isn't quite, we don't know that this domain is here. Your site has, this site may be expired. So make sure that you contact us before so we can get that set up. And then after you've made the changes, you send us an email. We will then install your SSL cert. Doesn't take us long if we know that to do it in advance. And once that's done, we'll have it installed. And I'm just going to refresh this page. Let's hope this works because I just did it on the fly. There we go. Now we have our Uplifter site pointing to our new domain. And you'll see here that it is actually a secure site because we actually have our SSL cert installed that we've done on your behalf at that pre-scheduled time. So that was really much longer than I expected. Did that cover everything, Garrett? Did I miss anything?
You missed a ton of stuff, but we don't have time for it. So, no, just kidding. No, you did a wonderful job. And this is a great, for those of you interested, this is the capybara. Oh, you did say that at the beginning, didn't you? This is the capybara theme. It looks so nice. I just like it a lot. Yeah, you did a wonderful job. Thank you so much, Jackie. Thank you to everyone for joining us today. I know this was kind of a heady topic, so if you have any questions or concerns about this process or really anything to do with Uplifter, you know exactly where to find us, support@uplifterinc.com. Beyond that, of course, as Jackie is already gearing towards, don't forget we have our refer and save option, which allows you to refer a club and save $10 a month for each club that you refer that goes live, especially now with you know, budgets being so tight. This is a great way to not only save some money but also help out some clubs and make sure that they have some cool tools to run their systems as well. Once again, thank you everyone for joining us today. We hope you have a lovely weekend.
Thanks so much. Take care.